Welcome to How Women Inspire. Today, we are in for a treat. We are going to speak with Jacqueline Schafer. Jackie's the founder and CEO of ClearBrief. Now, only 2% of all founders of AI companies are women, and you get to meet one of these courageous, amazing leaders. This is a leading AI-driven legal drafting tool that keeps the evidence visible during the writing and filing process. So evidence verification visibility. Jackie is one of the inaugural members of the Texas Bar's AI Task Force, the Washington Bar's Legal Tech Committee, and she was chosen by the American Bar Association as one of the 2022 Women of Legal Tech, among so very many other accolades, of course, as you can imagine. Before she got into AI and founded ClearBrief in 2020, she served as an associate at the New York firm Paul Weiss as in-house counsel for a $3 billion national nonprofit and as an assistant attorney general in Alaska and Washington state. I am so honored to say that our venture firm, How Women Invest, has taken a stake in her amazing company. And she is so very many things that I can't even begin to explain to you, but you're going to get to meet her in person now to hear from her. But Jackie, before we get started into the technical stuff and what it's like being a founder in AI and starting your own company, I'd love to actually have a little bit of fun with you. What is that? Do you have a walk-on song or a song you listen to on the good days or the tough days?
Yeah, it's so funny. I got super into the new version of Shira. I don't know if anyone saw that animated show with my daughters during the pandemic, and I just love the theme song to that show. It goes something like, "We're on the edge of greatness, turning darkness to light." It's very exciting and empowering, so I
What
love
a
it.
beautiful message to tell your daughter, right? And well, I would say you've already met a lot of greatness, but you are building a really exciting company. How did you even begin to get into law, let alone AI? Where did this all come from?
So I was an English and French major in college and had always been interested in sort of close readings of language. It's very nerdy, but I just, from a young age, I always was really drawn to writing and analysis. And so I went to law school with sort of this idea that I would use those skills and maybe become an appellate lawyer, which I did end up becoming. But I always had an interest in public interest work and sort of wanting to make an impact. And I didn't quite know how. And so I spent a lot of time in law school trying different internships and exploring different areas of law. And I continued that actually when I graduated law school as well.
So you worked in a bunch of different legal settings. Were these all sort of like the path to get you here, like in that exploration of what you can do to make the world a better place? Or do you feel like each one has served a different purpose for your mission in life?
I think it's each one sort of had its purpose in growing my skill set that's helped me be the leader that I am today. But when I started out, I was at Paul Weiss in New York, just like a fantastic place to cut your teeth as a litigator, incredibly intimidating. Everyone around you is just so brilliant, and there's extremely high standards for legal writing. And I like to kind of think about that now as one of the big inspirations for founding my company, which is focused on legal drafting and accuracy, because you can't submit something as an associate at one of these top tier law firms without facing a ton of scrutiny from supervisors, from colleagues, and then ultimately the court. And at a big firm, everything that you file with the court has to be incredibly accurate and just meet the absolute highest standards, because that's why the clients are paying you the big bucks. So it was a very high stress environment, but I learned so much and I was kind of ready for it at that time of my life. But I had something unexpected happen, which was I fell in love with an Alaskan, as one does. And I was visiting one of my closest friends from growing up, had moved to Alaska, and ended up meeting one of her friends. And I had kind of this long distance relationship for a while. And that inspired me to ultimately find an opportunity in Alaska and take one of the first really big leaps I'd ever taken as a pretty conservative lawyer woman. And it worked out really great. We're now married we just celebrated our 13th wedding anniversary. But at the time it was definitely terrifying to move all the way to Alaska. I did take an in-house legal job there, I ultimately spent some time as an assistant attorney general in Alaska, where I had the chance to brief and argue cases before the state Supreme Court. Just a really exciting place to
That
practice law.
sounds so fun. Yeah.
Super fun, and just this journey again of having the chance to grow my skill set when you're at a government agency, quite different from when you're at a big law firm. You end up having tons and tons of brief writing that you're doing mostly on your own, and you do have to incorporate other people's feedback. But again, these all helped inspire me to solve the problems that we are working on at ClearBrief. But anyway, flash forward to we ended up moving to Seattle for another role in-house. And then I decided around 2020 to take the leap and start my company.
So how did you even kind of make the connection with AI? Nobody, it wasn't really in the news at that point. Like, it was pretty darn nascent. You were certainly one of the early people.
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, being in Seattle, it is kind of what the stereotype suggests. Like, everybody is in tech here and really into AI. It's one of the, I just saw something that's saying that it's still one of like the top two cities for finding AI engineers. So I definitely just got more interested in it from being immersed, I think, in the city. But I was also advising at the nonprofit. The goal of the nonprofit was to bring data science to child welfare agencies and government and courts around how they could improve their operations. And so I was advising as a lawyer the data science team. And I do remember really trying to dig in and understand data sets better and being kind of told, just stay in your own lane. Like, focus on the legal stuff. Don't try to understand this. And I didn't really listen to that. And I remember digging into the data sets and thinking like, this isn't rocket science. Like, it seems like there's some clear problems with how these specific data points that they're gathering and how it is impacting the amount of funding, for example, that the federal government provides based on this leading data point. So I started getting more interested in data science. I then started writing a law review article about how AI would, I saw it sort of impacting the operations of child welfare agencies and lawyers. And I knew this so deeply from having spent years in the trenches doing that work. And I'm really proud that the article was eventually published, and it's been cited now, I think, in like congressional testimony. I saw some alerts pop up about that. So that was one of the ways I started learning about AI. I had the idea for my product, though, came about in a little bit of a different experience.
So everyone I talk to about ClearBrief and knows anything about law, they're like, oh my God, I spent years as an associate, nights and weekends doing exactly what ClearBrief is like creating a solution for. Do you feel like you're like everybody's hero when you come into the, the law firms? You must get such good feedback. Like, save my life.
I feel like that is 100% one of the most rewarding aspects of this job and this work is interacting with the associates and the paralegals and even the partners, just really everybody who is so stressed out by the pressure that we're under as lawyers in the legal profession. And they're so grateful. They're so grateful for help with this kind of stuff.
I bet they are. So we're an only women founder, almost all women investor venture firm. And what does it feel like? Is there a difference when you have female investors? How do things feel when you have some women in the room?
I think it was something that was very important to me from the earliest stages of founding my company. Rain Ventures it's a Black woman-led VC fund out of New York area. And they actually led our very first round in 2021. And so from the earliest days, it was really partnering with really strong women to help me navigate the early days of doing something very, very big and audacious and trying to change the legal industry. I think probably some of the most noticeable things are just the human element of it, of being able to have phone conversations and sort of unpack what I was feeling and experiencing, and just feeling really supported in that way. And also just the fact that women investors can help you, like How Women Invest has been amazing in this way of making connections to other women who can help your business. Yeah. So I found throughout my journey, like I'm thinking back to my very first customers at ClearBrief were women attorneys. They are, they're still with us actually. And shout out to Ariel in New York. She's got an incredible firm. And they believed in ClearBrief from the early days, gave us feedback for how we could improve. But our women investors have made connections to customers who are more likely to take a risk on a startup because they want to see women-led companies succeed. And so I found that to be a pattern I've noticed even with working with these large global corporations and massive enterprise law firms, the innovation leaders, there is a focus now on actually thinking about, who has built the AI behind this company that we're investing in and using. So it is really helpful to connect with other really strong women leaders to grow the business.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making the commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step. I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. Well, of course, like everybody's concerned about, well, they say garbage in, garbage out, but also it's part and parcel about how you design it and making sure that you're sourcing it in the right way and you're giving it the right guidance and framework when you set it up. Is that part of what was important to you from the beginning? Did you know that you were going to be an outlier in this space and how you designed the tool itself?
That's a good question. I think I've always let my instincts as a lawyer and having been in-house counsel and having thought about risk and balancing risk and reward from that perspective. For example, I was recently interviewed by a national legal publication that was doing a piece on security. And what they heard from law firms that are purchasing AI is we see all these great startups, but almost none of them can pass our security InfoSec process. And the reporter reached out to me because they were like, well, we've actually heard about Clearbrief that you are passing the InfoSec review. How is that? And it's because really early on, I decided to invest in the SOC 2 type, now we're type 2. And that was something where early on, it's very expensive, especially like when you're trying to have to make tough decisions about how to spend your capital in those early days. But I knew that we wouldn't succeed with our target audience of these large enterprise firms. Clearbrief is also used by courts and government agencies and in-house teams at like the largest companies. And I knew we'd have to have the strictest security requirements. So that's an example, I think, of just thinking about the ethical sort of framework of how we build the platform. And it's really paid off.
Well, I'll tell you, the minute we told people about Clearbrief, before we even had an onboarding call with you as a founder, I had all these people saying they wanted to support you and reach out to you. And so I cannot wait to see the future of Clearbrief because clearly you are hot and everybody wants to get connected with you. So everybody who's listening here, tell all your lawyer friends, anybody who works with law firms, they need to be asking, are you Clearbriefed? Because we need to know that you've got the right analysis and the right protections. So when I think about the journey of female founders, I mean, the data is really clear about how hard it is. Have you faced some rejections and setbacks? What a question, right? Yeah, maybe more like how have you overcome them? What as a lawyer, you have a certain skill set as it relates to some of this. I would think that gives you a little bit of an advantage, but it's never easy.
I think the biggest aspect of it is just sort of keep on keeping on. I don't know how to explain it better than that I don't know if that comes from being a lawyer, but there's so much rejection that's inherent in this work. There's so much condescension that you're going to experience. I remember raising capital right around the pandemic in 2020 for a legal tech company was absolutely brutal because there had been a very high profile failure of another legal tech company that was started by the founder of Twitch. And he had just raised massive millions without much connection to the legal industry. And it shut down. And so investors were telling me like, there's nothing to do in legal tech. I had one investor, a male investor, tell me, we've looked at legal tech. There's kind of nothing there. There's nothing really there. And I'm like, I can tell you there are problems still in legal that need to be solved, and
Right.
that AI, natural language processing, is very well suited to solve. And so I can understand, though, it is so challenging when you're talking with investors who seem like they have so much more experience than you do in just building a venture-backed company. It is really hard to sort of ignore them and go with your gut feeling of, I know something that they don't understand.
Yeah.
And so you have to really have that strength. And I think it's having practice for a decade, where maybe it is being a lawyer where you're sort of used to being a know-it-all. So maybe that helped me carry through of,
Well, also, I see people coming up to bat and they may not realize how fully prepared you need to be. I mean, I think preparation is the first thing you said on this call. Really understand, like we as the VCs are going to look at everything. We have to make a decision. I'm investing other people's money. So like, this is serious business. There is no question. I'm uncovering every rock I can possibly imagine because we cannot make a mistake. As women then in VC, like you female founders, like we got to be 10 times better, as you can imagine. So
even getting to that point of really digging in and giving a strong look at the business is a good stage to be at. And it can be just especially disheartening when you're not even given that chance where.
Yeah.
So I think just anyone who's starting out on this journey, you have to come in ready to expect a ton of rejection, and just know that there's really a process that you need to follow. You need to have the preparation, and you will get better at it over practicing and practicing.
Yeah. At some point, right? So let's talk about you personally, sort of your leadership and even your family. I hate the idea of balance. I just think it's a folly to suggest we ever have balance. But how do you integrate being a mom, and how do you think about, why is this so important to you? Is there something about doing this for your kids that's in part of
Yeah,
the part of the
100%. What's funny is, so I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and both of my daughters will introduce me to their friends and tell them that I'm a CEO. So they must be proud of that. Otherwise, I'm like, none of your friends know what that means really, or care. I think, but that they're really proud of it. And so I think they see me every day working really hard and making leadership decisions. And that does seem like it's having an impact.
Well, my daughter's 31. Let me tell you, it does. Oh my gosh. My daughter says, Mom, I hear you in my ear all day long at work. Like the messages I heard, and sort of even like, get to the point, and you're worth it. And like, you deserve to be in this room.
Absolutely. I think just setting that example for them, even from this young age, like they talk a lot of times about ideas that they have and want to start and things they want to do. So I think, yeah. And then I would definitely be remiss to not mention my husband, who the Alaskan guy,
Yeah, yeah.
who actually now at this point works for ClearBrief. He's our lead front end developer. And that has actually been, I think, really helpful in certain ways to have him be so close in this journey, and kind of, he really deeply understands the pressure that I'm under and the amount of work that it takes. And so in addition to really being a great collaborator on the product, he can pick up the slack for me at home when it's needed. So like, I'm constantly traveling for conferences, and I would not be as gracious about that. Like solo parenting.
Right. Yeah. Aren't we lucky? I mean, I have to tell you, I don't know if you know anything about my personal life, but my husband I've been with him for 35 years, and he is literally the reason why I can do what I do. There's just no question. He's the reason I can fly, because I can always come home to my solid home base. And so I get that. What is next for you? Like, if you see like 10 to 15 years down the road after you IPO, whatever the exit is for ClearBrief, what's the future for you? What have you yet to tackle?
I feel like the more I learn about the problems that our court systems are facing, I do find myself just so drawn to those problems, and I find them so fascinating. Many of them definitely could be significantly helped with technology, but some are really more about like funding and making sure that our justice system is robust. So I do think that this journey is giving me such a cool front row seat to, I'm constantly meeting with really important influencers in our justice system. So I see myself as always being kind of interested in hopefully working on those issues. But then I'm also a musician. So I have I have creative aspirations to I
What
want
instrument or voice?
so I'm a vocalist, but I also play guitar and have like a little jazz group on the side. And so I do want to try to make sure that I'm staying in touch with my creativity and the arts and
Love
supporting
that.
that. I think is also super important for a functioning society. So those are probably the areas that I'm most.
That's beautiful. That makes me so happy. My daughter is a violinist, conservatory trained, and her husband's a pianist who does vocal accompaniment. So he works with all the opera singers. So, and when my first big job was at the Merit Conservatory School of Music in Chicago. So yeah, it's big, really
It's such
important.
an important thing that I just, yeah, that's something that I really hope that we can
soul.
fill in future generations, just the joy of being able to make music yourself. And yeah, I think about that a lot for some reason.
Well, I don't know how it happened, but we're at time. So, if for anybody who's listening, what can they do to support Clear Brief and how can they find you?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. If you look for Jacqueline Schafer, ClearBrief, founder and CEO, I'm constantly posting about the business. I would love to connect with lawyers who are interested in learning about ClearBrief. We also are serving in-house counsel and folks who work on investigations, HR, compliance. So if you are interested in sort of how secure AI can be used in those areas, I would love to connect, even just to chat about some of the product developments we're working on. And of course, any lawyers, send it my way.
That sounds magnificent. All right, you heard it here, everyone. Clear Brief is off to the races and is available to support any of your law firm structural support, let's say. So thank you very much, Jackie, for your time today. Have a great time, everyone.
Thank you so much, Julie.